The main claim I'm reviewing today is that high tuition costs in the U.S. are brought on by students. The advocate supports this claim by stating that 1, colleges compete for students, which leads to higher tuition. 2, financial aid has caused tuition increases to stabilize. And 3, students seek the college experience, which is expensive to acquire. First off, I agree that these factors contribute to high tuition costs, but I don't support his claim that this is caused by students. There are actually multiple factors involved, of which student involvement is minimal. For instance, regarding public universities, increases in tuition have been due to a cost shift. State funding is being cut, so tuition increases are necessary in order to make up the difference. Also, problems affecting tuition rates are not the same for other groups of schools, such as community colleges and public research universities and private universities, etc. For example, data from the Delta Cost Project, which is a source of college spending and revenue, shows that in private, non-research liberal arts colleges, tuition increases are due to a lack of donations and endowments, rather than, as in the public schools, it's because of the cutting of the state funding. The advocate's first supporting claim states that colleges compete for students by incorporating newer technologies, which contribute to higher costs. Although I agree that new technologies contribute to an increase in tuition, no evidence was given to support his claim. I have found evidence, however, that shows that adoption of new technology, although raising tuition, is not motivated by competition among schools. In an article for the National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, David Feldman, a professor of economics, writes that if prestige competition were a driving engine of college costs, we would expect to see costs rising more rapidly in four-year schools than in community colleges. Four-year programs are the ones that house expensive research facilities and hire the superstar scholars, yet the growth rate per student is quite similar. Also, newer technology is actually used in response to the rapidly changing technology of our world, rather than as a tool for competition with other universities. It is used to prepare students appropriately for the technology-driven job market. In his second supporting claim, financial aid is said to cause tuition increases to stabilize. Although he makes a good point, no data is provided to support a correlation between student financial aid and the college's decision to raise tuition. In fact, although financial aid does seem to contribute to a rise in tuition, other factors are ignored, such as the Bennett hypothesis and the variable way in which universities set their tuition prices. The Bennett hypothesis is actually a background for the reason a lot of people think that tuition increases are caused by federal loans and so forth. It actually stems from a 1987 New York Times piece that was written by U.S. Secretary of Education William Bennett that states that the availability of subsidized federal loans have enabled colleges to raise their prices. In a paper for the American Council on Education, Donald Heller, dean at Michigan State, reports that, as is the case at private universities, no matter who has the authority, tuition rates are established based on multiple variables, so the role of one factor is naturally limited. These variables include recent year financial results, projections of future expenses, and estimates of enrollment demand, among other things. And regarding Bennett's hypothesis, Bennett himself stated that federal student aid policies do not cause college price inflation, but there is little doubt that they help make it possible. So it does contribute, but not to the extent that is argued in his claim. There are other factors present that affect tuition more directly. In his third supporting claim, the advocate states that students seek the college experience, which is expensive, and that colleges provide luxuries to boost enrollment. As Western European countries have low tuition rates and no to little amenities, he reasons that our college luxuries contribute to rising tuition. However, no examples are given to indicate what percentage of schools are providing such amenities and whether or not these have resulted in an increase in tuition and/or enrollment. Also, no data is given to indicate what percentage of college students were motivated to choose their college based off of the amenities offered rather than the quality of the education itself. As for Western Europe, specifically Germany, where tuition is completely free, the advocate fails to present the relevant reason as to how Germany can provide this free tuition. According to a Forbes article, Germany has the second highest income tax burden and more state subsidies to keep higher education free. This is an important factor that enables Germany to offer a free education, and this must be considered when comparing them to the rising tuition costs in the United States. So as you can see, multiple factors cause high tuition costs, such as the lack of state funding, the technology-driven job market, and the various ways in which universities set tuition rates. High tuition is not specifically student-driven. Thank you.
Structural stuff is really good. I thought that you did an excellent job researching the subject and finding explanations for other causations for increases in tuition. Challenging the premise that the advocate's using on the second point was pretty effective. Also, the codicil that Bennett himself had, saying it maybe lays the groundwork, but it doesn't cause this itself. I thought that was pretty good. And then again, you had some more particular evidence here that talked about, again, multiple variables. The notion that one thing is driving the costs, I think, is really challenged pretty effectively. You also do kind of try to contrast the argument a little bit to the evidence that the advocate is presenting, and it seems to me like you are, suggesting, at least on a couple of points, that there's no data that the advocate presents. It's what is provided is very ambiguous. And the third point, for instance, is the one that gives us the best example of that ambiguity, because we don't get any idea about what the college experience costs are, and how they're substantially different in terms of pressing things. And the argument at the end about how the Germans end up paying for it through increased taxes doesn't suggest that it's less expensive. It just suggests that the expense has been shifted from one place to another. I think that's a pretty reasonable point to be making on this. I thought you were very thorough in answering the arguments and coming up with counter explanations. All right, thank you.